One of my favorite things to create is a time lapse, whether it's me working throughout the day just to add something a little different to the kind of content I'm creating, or whether it's me doing a sunrise or sunset video. They're just a fun, unique way to spice up what you're creating. So if you don't know what a time lapse is, it is essentially a series of photos put together to create a small little video to show the passage of time. Whether that is something simple like the one I showed at the beginning of me sitting at my desk working, that was about a 30-minute time lapse, or one of the sunset sunrise ones I showed that was over the span of a couple hours. You can just use these to show that passage of time. Time lapse are also a good segue to change your filming location. You saw this a lot with TV shows like White Collar or Suits that were primarily based in New York City, where if they went to a commercial break and then they came back, there was usually always a time lapse of New York City. And the greatest thing about these is you can do them of anything, anywhere, whenever you want. And you can have a very short time lapse or a very long time lapse. And there's a lot of settings and math that has to get done, which math is not my thing. But for this, it's actually very, very easy to do. Let's knock out the math part first. So we have different frame rates we can use. We have 24 frames a second, 30 frames a second, or 60 frames a second. And for this one, we're gonna choose 24 frames a second because that is what I usually end up shooting in. And then for that 24 frames a second, how long do we want our time lapse to be? Do we want it to be 10 seconds or maybe 20 seconds or even 30 seconds? And that's up to you. You can decide. But either way, we got to do a little bit of math to get to how many photos we need to create a time lapse of 10 seconds, 20 seconds, or 30 seconds. And it's fairly simple. All we have to do is take however long we want that time lapse to be, one of these numbers, and multiply it times our frame rate. So if we want it to be 10 seconds, then we do 24 times 10. And then we get 240. And that is the number of photos we need in order to create that 10-second time lapse. I forgot to mention at the beginning, there's 3 things you're gonna need in order to do a time lapse. You're gonna need a tripod or something sturdy to sit your camera on, or a motorized slider. You could have your camera slide across as you're getting the time lapse, which would be really cool to see. The second thing is gonna be an ND filter or a circular polarizer, because if you're doing something with water, that polarizer is gonna come in handy to take those glares off. The ND filter will come in handy if you wanna keep that 180-degree shutter roll that a lot of people mention. And that's just gonna be keeping your shutter speed double your frame rate. Now that's up to you if you wanna follow that, because if you don't follow that, you can still get some great footage. I'll do a comparison between some different shutter speeds so that way we can kind of get an idea if you actually need an ND filter or need to follow that rule at all. And lastly, and most importantly, is an intervalometer. It's basically a remote shutter for your camera that'll take photos at interval timings, right? It'll take a photo every 5 seconds for you. So that way you don't have to stand at your camera and try to hit that button every 5 seconds for 2 hours straight. Now, most mirrorless cameras nowadays have an intervalometer built in. But if yours does not have that, you're gonna have to go online and order one from Amazon or B&H and just to get that one shipped so that way you can start doing time lapses. The camera I'm using right now, the A7 IV, has one built in, so that's what I will be using. Those are the 3 key things you're gonna need in order to start taking a time lapse. So now, let's get into it. I'm on the Sony A7 IV, so if you have a different camera, you're gonna have to find it on your own or look in your menu system for the built-in intervalometer, or possibly Google it to see if your camera actually has one. But for the A7 IV, we're just gonna hit our menu button, and you can see that I'm already there. But if you wanna know how to get there, it's very easy. You have your main menu, but then you come down here to shooting, and we're just gonna go all the way down to drive mode, and then go down a couple more where it says interval shoot function. And then we're gonna go into there. And now we have our intervalometer right here. So you can see our shooting time, it says 41 minutes and 21 seconds based off the settings I have. We can see that I have it turned off. So we're gonna go in here, turn it on, and then we have our shooting start time. And that's gonna be how long you want it to wait before it starts taking the photographs. So for this one, I only want it to wait 5 seconds, so I can hit the button, back up, and it'll start. And then you have your shooting interval. This is the time between the shots you wanna take. So for this one, I'm gonna say we're gonna do 5 seconds between shots. And you can see we have the number of shots right there, and then the shooting time, that's how long it will take if we take 830 shots. Now, number of shots, we can change this to basically 9,999 if we wanted to, but we do not want anything close to that. So we're gonna go to 0, and the way we talked earlier, we want it to be 10 seconds, so we're gonna go to 240, and now we can see that with a shooting interval of 5 seconds between shots, our shooting time is only about 19 minutes and 55 seconds. So that is way easier. Then you can have your tracking sensitivity if you want that on. I always keep mine at mid. And then you have your shutter type and interval. So I'm outside now, so we can get that nice time lapse. And I've got a bush here. I've actually got a bird feeder over this way. We got some blue sky that we're gonna see with some clouds going by. So we're gonna see some good movement. So now we need to get to our settings, and they can be pretty important. So for the settings we're gonna use, it's gonna be honestly really simple. We can see our ISO is 100. Try to keep your ISO as low as possible, so that way you don't get any of that grain or that noise in your image. Now, if you want that in your image, absolutely go ahead and bump it up. I just like keeping mine low. Then your f-stop. Your f-stop is pretty important. Honestly, in my opinion, it's the most important because I have mine at an f8 because that is where this lens is sharpest that I'm using. So I'm gonna have it at an f8, so that way basically a lot of stuff in front of the camera and all over is in focus. And then your shutter speed right there. Now that one is an interesting topic. Some people will tell you that your shutter speed should be half of whatever your interval is. So if I'm shooting at 5 seconds in between, that my shutter speed should be at 2.5 seconds. In order to do that, you might need an ND filter. And if you don't have an ND filter, you can still do a time lapse. It just might not look as smooth, but it will still look good. And we're gonna show that right now. But the most important part that I want to talk to you about that a lot of people do not bring up, your lens right there. See how I have mine in autofocus? What I'm going to do is focus on something that I want it to focus on. So for this, it's going to be that bird feeder right there. So I'm going to tap on that screen. We're going to have it focused now. And then I'm going to turn this to manual focus. And that way, that stays in focus the whole time. It doesn't grab something and jump to a different focus point. So that way we have that one area and focus throughout this whole thing. You could pick something else. You could pick the sky, you could pick a branch, you could pick whatever it is that you wanted to focus on, but make sure to turn that off. The other thing is turn the IBIS off in your camera. If you have in-body stabilization, try to turn that off because it could make your camera jitter a little bit. But now we have all that out of the way, let's hit that shutter button and see what we get. So that was our time lapse at 1/100, f8 at an ISO of 100. But I talked about that 180 degree shutter roll. So we're gonna try that because I brought some ND filters out with me this time. But there's one thing I want you to remember, which to me is the most important information I'm gonna give in this whole thing, and that's gonna be today's sponsor. I'm just kidding. We don't have sponsors on this channel. We're not that big yet. The most important thing you're gonna do, and it's gonna help you a lot when it comes to post-processing, is if you're doing 2-3 time lapses in a row, have yourself a marker for when one time lapse ends and another one begins. So since I'm doing another one now, what I'm gonna do is put a lens cap in front and take a photo. Or if you don't have a lens cap, get something that can mark it. Like right now, I'm gonna take my hat off, I'm gonna put it in front of there on the lens, and then I'm just gonna hit that shutter button really quick and take a photo. And what that's gonna allow us to do is have a black photo. So we have all 240 photos, and then we're gonna see a black one. So that way we know we take those 240 photos, put them in their own folder. And then with our next time lapse, after that black photo, we can take those 240 photos and put it in another folder. So that way we can separate those two time lapses and not get them confused when we're importing them into our computer. It's just one of those little tiny things that can go a long way when it comes to our post-processing side. I've got my VND on here, and now we're just gonna check our settings, and I had updated our settings. So we're at 2.5 seconds for every photo that's taken. That's how long our shutter is gonna be open. We're still at an f8 at an ISO of 100, and I already put this in manual mode. We can do it again, just throw it back into autofocus, hit our button for the area we wanna focus on, which I said was that bird feeder. You can see where it's lighting up right there. And then we'll just put it back into manual focus, and then we're gonna go right here, hit our shutter button, and it's gonna count down from that 5 seconds. It'll say stand by, and now our next time lapse at 2.5 seconds is gonna start. So now we can see what the movement's gonna look like with this one. And the other thing is, since we're gonna throw it in a 24 frame second timeline, we're gonna wanna double our shutter speed of that and try that way to see how that looks. So now we're gonna throw it in a 1/50 and do another 10-second time lapse. And here's the footage from that. There's also one other tip I wanted to bring up, and that's gonna be white balance. You see, some people say put it in auto white balance. Me personally, I like putting it in a daylight white balance, or just a single white balance that I can adjust later on versus a auto white balance, because with auto, it'll adjust if you have clouds going over or anything like that. The reason to use daylight, cloudy, or something like that and not auto is so that way when you're editing, you can batch edit your photographs. So that way you can take that first photograph, edit it very nicely, and then copy and paste that over the rest of your time lapse and put it together versus having to go to every single photo individually and have to tweak it so that way it matches. So originally I was only gonna do those 3 time lapses, but I'm gonna add a 4th. So we did our first time lapse, which was that 1/100th of a second. We did our second time lapse, which was that really slow shutter speed, which was half of our interval, which was 2.5 seconds. And then we did our third time lapse, which was double what our frame rate would be, which was 1/50th for our shutter speed. But we're gonna do one more with a different shutter speed. We're gonna do 1/2000th of a second. But for this one, I changed my aperture to wide open, so I'm at an f2.8, so that way all that light can come in. So that way I still have a good, even exposure. But that's what this looks like. So now we know how to create a time lapse, and we took a time lapse. Lastly, we have to do the fun part, and that is gonna be going into our computer and creating the time lapse using Lightroom and DaVinci Resolve. If you don't use DaVinci Resolve, there is a free version and it'll work to create your time lapse just fine, and that's the way I'm gonna do it. You can also do it in Premiere Pro or in Photoshop. You might even be able to use it in CapCut. I'm not 100% sure. So we're gonna open up Lightroom really quick, and all we would do normally is import our photos. So if you know how to do this, you would just go over here and select from your desktop which one you're going to be doing. So we have timelapse 1, timelapse 2, timelapse 3, and timelapse 4. You might also see where I have timelapse 2 JPG, 3 JPG, and 4 JPG. That's for when we get to our exporting. But all we want to do is take this photo really quick, right? I already have a little edit on here, nothing overwhelming, nothing crazy, just to give an example. So we can see I have it on all of these other ones as well, but I'm just gonna use timelapse 4 very quickly. We go to our development tab. And after we get the edit how we want to, maybe we wanna up the exposure, down it, get this blue in the background to pop a little more, whatever it might be. I kind of have it the way I want it for this example. We're just gonna hit Command C for copy, and we're gonna copy this edit, or you can go to your edit tab and also hit copy, and the same thing will pop up. And then what you're gonna wanna do is hit edit again and hit select all. And that's gonna select all your images down at the bottom, all 240 of them for this one. And then we're gonna hit sync. And then once we hit synchronize, it's gonna take that first edit and paste it across all of your photos. So that way we can see, look how that kind of looks. It all looks the same, and we're just gonna cross. And it kind of looks like a time lapse when we do it that way. So we're gonna stay in this development tab really quickly, and everything's already selected. So since all of our photos are already selected, we're gonna hit export. And then we're gonna go where it says desktop right here, we're gonna actually hit choose. And we're gonna go to timelapse 4, because this is timelapse 4 for the last one I created at 1/2000th of a second. And we're gonna choose that one. And then we'll go to file naming, and you're gonna name this. And you can see all these things that are in there. You're gonna want custom name sequential. So I put this as front yard, and then it starts with number 1. And what it's gonna do is export all 240 photos that we can see here. And it's gonna go front yard from number 1 all the way to front yard 240. And we're gonna do that across all 3 or 4 of our time lapses that we created. Just something I forgot to mention really quick when it came to the editing portion, make sure you go under your crop aspect ratio and go down to where the aspect area is, and drop that down and pick 16:9. That's where you're gonna wanna be if you wanna create that horizontal content, because videos come out in 16:9, and our camera sensors are gonna be 4:3, 3:2. So if you don't do that, you're gonna have those black bars on the side of your video. So make sure to change that, or you can change it to 9:16 if you plan to do vertical content. You could also do this in DaVinci Resolve, but if you already have it done ahead of time in Lightroom, it's gonna be a lot easier for you. So now we're gonna go to the next part, and that's gonna be using DaVinci Resolve. So like I said, if you don't have it, go ahead and download it. You can get a free version and it works great. So we're just gonna open DaVinci Resolve very quickly and go ahead and you can either select from this area right here or go to File and hit Import. And then go to Media and find the one you need. And I already have Timelapse 1 JPEGs right here. So we're just gonna go ahead and take that and open it up. And you can see that it took all of our pictures and now they're just single files. And there's two ways to get around this. Now you can either go to Resolve and then just go to Preferences, go to User, and then drop to where it says Editing. Go down here to Standard Still Duration and change that to 1 frame like I already have it. Usually you have it at about 125 or whatever it's gonna be. Just change that from seconds to frames and then put in 1. And then we go and save it. And then what you would do is you would take all these and you would drop it in here. And now you would have your time lapse and it would go through all those photos 1 second at a time, and it would create that 10-second time lapse that we're looking for. The way that is better than that is if we go back to our area right here, you're gonna wanna hit this tab, these 3 little buttons right here. Go to Frame Display and then put it sequential. And then we're gonna actually delete these files right here, all 240 of these files. We're gonna go ahead, drag across, and then we're just gonna delete all of those, all 240. What that's gonna do is tell Resolve that you want those photos in a sequence instead. So we can go to Media and we can drag across all of these very quickly, open, and now look at it. Instead of 240 files, we have just 1 file that it turned into a time lapse. And then we can hit it and now our time lapse is good to go. And you're gonna notice that right there, this little portion right here, we got a cloud that came over it. So all of a sudden, we have this cloud and it's dark. So that is one of the things that happens when you use manual mode is if you don't have your exposure set, you could easily have something like that happen. And one thing to make sure also is we need to go up to our file and actually go to our project settings and make sure your project settings are where you want them to be. If you want 30 frames a second, 24 frames a second, or 23.976, make sure you have that selected first before we even get into it. So we're gonna go to the Export tab and it's gonna be in there and we're just gonna hit Time Lapse and then pick our location. I'm gonna pick my desktop so I can find it very, very easily. And we're gonna change it from QuickTime to MP4 and I'm gonna change the codec to H.265 because that's where I like it. And then all we're gonna do is hit Add to Render Queue, which apparently I cut off on this, right? So I'm gonna lower it. Now we can see it. So we hit Add to Render Queue and then hit Render All. And now it's exporting very quickly. And then it's gonna be on your desktop ready to go. So this is just really a basic way to do time lapses. If you've got advice, better ways to do it, drop them down below because I'm always willing to hear those and learn because time lapses are something I haven't done in a while. And the more I do them, the more I enjoy them. And I'm trying to get back into, hey, I like creating, I like trying things. I maybe haven't done it in a couple of years. I need to get back out there and doing it and realize how much I love it because that's really what photography is about. Sometimes you do something so much, whether it's portraits, landscapes, or whatever, you stop for a little bit, you're like, I've done all that. But then you need to get back out there and do it again because then you realize how much you love it. So if you got any of those tips on how you create your time lapses, drop them down below because I'd love to hear it and I'd love to try them. The other thing to remember is experiment, have fun, enjoy it. If you're doing waterfalls and you want those really smooth water trails, you're gonna have to have a really slow shutter speed. Have it at like 5 seconds or 6 seconds, 8 seconds, whatever it might be. So you're not gonna want a faster shutter speed because you want that really smooth water. It just really depends on what you want your time lapse to look like and what you wanna create. So that's why I say go out there, try it, experiment with your numbers and how you use it. If you don't know how to use manual mode, that's something you're gonna need to learn to do this or throw it in aperture priority and just worry about that and let the camera take care of the rest. That's all I've got for you today. If you like this video, hit the thumbs up. If you didn't and you have comments or concerns, hit that thumbs down button and drop those concerns below because I am willing to hear it out and I'm willing to hear like what I said wrong, what I did wrong, or how you think time lapses should be done. Because I want this channel to be about learning and getting better at photography, whether that's me getting better or you getting better and learning something as well. But anyway, that's all I got today. God bless. I'll see y'all in the next one.